Thanks for tuning in to the Traumaplicity podcast with Dr. Amanda Helman, an author, cognitive release coach, consultant, and speaker. Dr. Amanda Helman has guests on the podcast who have overcome different areas of trauma and provided hope for the audience. Thank you for tuning in to this podcast.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Traumaplicity podcast with your host, Dr. Amanda Helman. And the Traumaplicity podcast is all about trauma, which is part of our events, or it could be ongoing complex events or negative experiences that impact us, and plicity. You might say, what's that? Simplicity. Our brain needs simple steps to help us overcome negative events and traumas. And so Traumaplicity is just that. It's helping people share their stories about what happened to them, the steps they took to help them overcome it, and then also sharing about how they got empowered and how you can get empowered by hearing their story. And I'm very excited. Today I have a very special guest and someone I've had the opportunity to get to meet through many different ways. And her name is Amy King. And Amy King is the founder and visionary of Hey Single Ladies. And she is an author, intercessor, and speaker. Amy has been called by God for such a time as this. She is empowered by the Holy Spirit and has a passion to see single ladies and young adults walk in their God-given purpose. Amy can connect with people from all walks of life, culture, and educational backgrounds, using her wit, personal experiences, and transparency, while imparting God's truth to inspire hearts to transform and believe God for the best of their lives. Amy uses the testimony of Jesus Christ to show people how God sees them, and also encourage them to walk in their divine purpose. So Amy, it's so great to have you here. Welcome.
Yes, good morning from Japan, Dr. Amanda, and hello, greetings to the audience. I am so happy to be on your podcast, on your show. Thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited to be here.
You're so welcome. It's always good to see you. And so today I'm going to be sharing, asking you some things, and it's really mainly focused on you. And then we'll get to share a special part of this is you have a book out. So near the end, we'll share that with the audience to make sure they get to hear about that. Okay.
Yes.
Well, I'd like you to share, because we've done coaching, and just coaching that could be for your book in some ways, and also just for personal development for you. I'd love you to share with the audience where you were before me, with coaching, and even perhaps, there's a specific area, that we might talk about that you wanted to work through, that you're willing to share.
Yes, thank you. Before meeting you, Dr. Amanda, I was in a very prideful place. I took on this attitude or this thought process that I have Jesus, so I don't need a mental health coach. God can help me resolve everything I'm going through, and he can. However, I realized I go to a church here in Okinawa, and it's like a medium-sized congregation. And I realized that if I was dependent on the pastor to help me through every situation or things that I'm struggling with, that I'm not going to get the help that I need. Not because of any ill will against this particular pastor. I just looked out and I saw that, wow, there's 200 or 300 people that needs this one pastor. Mm-hmm. And so it was then that I can't remember what event triggered this thought process, but then I realized, I said, one day I was in my house, and you and I, we had already done the group coaching for Square Tree, that came along with the book. And you had offered coaching, and so some months, had passed by, and I still had this mindset, this negative mindset that I don't need any mental health coach. Right? And I can't remember which life event triggered it, but then it dawned on me. I realized, I said, God, I think I need help. the pastor that I'm under right now, he just doesn't have the time. And that's no, cause against him. I just realized. And I said, God, I think I need help. I think I need more help than I need more help than I can realize. And I said, I think I'm going to give Dr. Amanda a try. And so I did. I purchased some sessions, and it was the first time I really opened up about my childhood to anyone. An event that caused a lot of trauma in my life that I did not realize it was shaping my adult life and my interactions. Yes. So that's where I was before I met you. I was prideful. I was my relationships were unhealthy. Definitely a lot of unhealthy communication, struggles, rejection, and a lot of it most of it stemmed from a traumatic event that happened in my childhood.
Thanks for sharing so vulnerably, Amy. I appreciate that. Just, sharing your journey. And, I remember when I met you, but it was interesting because you said about pride, but you tried hard to keep up walls. But I remember that
Yes.
one session, you're like, what just happened? You
Right.
actually, it came down. And you were willing, right? And that was a lot with Jesus, safety, feeling loved or seen. And I remember as we continued, you were like, you know what? I really want to keep, I didn't even know this was here. And so just your willingness to keep going and moving into deeper levels, that's a big deal because not everybody does that. And all of us have different areas, right? They're always popping up. But I love your willingness to keep going. So even though you said about prideful, I feel like you had your walls coming down. And you continue to do that. So it's really fun to see you share that, where you started to where you're going. And so that really goes into the next question of what was our focus? You talked about communication. So I'm not sure if that's what you're going to focus on or not when it came to coaching, because we did do that. We actually, I think in one of our rounds, we spent quite some time doing that, and we kind of circled back. But you're open to, you can share whatever you want, but I know you mentioned that. So I'm not sure if that's what you want to move into, or if there's something else that was really important for you to share.
Wow. Since I have to choose one focus, yes, that I wanted to improve on during coaching. I can say, like, the foundation of why I needed the coaching, it involved, there was just so many layers to it. I mean, like, trauma complex, it's just so many layers that you have to pull through. It's so many focus areas, and I didn't realize how much it just impacted me so much. And so one of the areas that I for sure needed to focus on, and I'm just so sad that I have to choose one, but it was for sure, I would, and I think they go hand in hand. It was definitely the communication skills, and definitely the healthy relationships. I am in the process of creating healthy relationships, and I'm grateful to you. I thank God, but I'm so grateful to you that he used you to help me to create healthy relationships. But it definitely starts with communication. And so one area, you've been helping me to improve in my communication style by allowing me to, so many ways, vulnerability, asking open-ended questions. That was hard for me because I'm used to, like, it being one way. I just tell you what I'm thinking, and then I just shut down the conversation. And I was creating unhealthy relationships with that. And so one area, you helped me to focus, definitely, like, you taught me to, ask open-ended questions. And I'm doing that now. I've been practicing it a lot for like the last 2 to 3 months. And I can see, like, people I've interacted with before, and I'm still interacting with them now that I'm asking open-ended questions. Like, people were like, oh, okay, they're more happy, and more joyful to interact with me because I am opening up and allowing them to share as well versus dictating or like being so demanding. And then also, what I think, yeah, healthy communications, healthy relationships, the foundation is healthy communication and also being vulnerable. I wanted to get to that because that was definitely a rough part of my life. It is something that I am still working on. But it was brought to my attention through our sessions that I have a hard time being vulnerable. I come from a background, and today is June 10th. I always say this name, June 10th, the holiday. I'm sorry. I come from a background where, most African Americans, we are told, you be strong. You do not cry in front of people. Even to this day, my mom, she tells me, no, I'm not raising any soft people. Be hard. That's what she tells me. And I'm not the only one. I've shared that statement with other people, and they're like, no, we're against that mindset. We need to be vulnerable. And so you've taught me like Jesus has been vulnerable, and we read the scriptures, and just yeah, teaching me to let down that wall that I have. I definitely have a wall built up. And so you've helped me focus on that.
I'm so glad. And I love, Amy, that you shared about vulnerability and even just sharing about open-ended questions. And I don't think you're alone in the audience, even myself over time, right? I had to go to a counseling program to learn how to do that better, right? Because sometimes even when you're passionate, right, in your leadership or you're excited, things, it may be easier to teach or give advice, and you're just passionate, but you're not realizing that other people also want part of the story. And so I love that you are like, oh, I noticed, through some of these techniques that I'm starting to do that, and people are lighting up because they're getting to share too. And that's an ongoing awareness. And I totally hear you. And so if you're in the audience and you're relating to Amy, certainly please let us know, give us some comments, ask some questions, and I'll be sharing with you how to keep in touch with Amy, because again, she is being vulnerable, which is amazing. And I'm just so proud to see her journey. Encourages me as well. And Amy, we're talking about coaching and vulnerability and communication. So, and you've mentioned some techniques, but what are some special techniques that have helped you the most and kept you moving forward?
Well, yes, I mentioned one technique is that I've been implementing is definitely open asking in the questions, but also you taught me another technique that you made me aware of is to be mindful, like self-aware. So, like we created like a little sheet.
Yeah.
And when I do something that's not healthy, that's written that I do that I was not aware of. We wrote it down, you wrote it, you created a sheet, and then you told me like when I catch myself doing these things to check the box so I can realize like, oh wow, I did do this. And so not all the time am I able to check the box, but I am able, some practical techniques is like, okay, I'm more self-aware. And I remember at the forefront of my mind, okay, this is what I'm working on. So I'm like, okay, I'm basically getting to a technique is self-awareness and correcting myself on the spot. That's a practical technique that I've been implementing. Also, another technique with vulnerability is I'm learning, and I actually learned this. I teach the little girls in Sunday school, and we're learning how to resolve conflict. Right? And which is amazing. I love doing this because I'm like, I'm learning too. And I learned this the other day. It's write on a piece of paper, like someone that you may have got into like had an unhealthy conversation with, and write down how you wish the conversation would have went, and what would you do to resolve the situation. And I actually, I didn't put it on paper last night, but I thought about a particular person that I had a not healthy conversation with, and I wanted to implement that technique as well. Like write down, like, okay, I wish I would have said this, or if I could resolve the issue, how would I resolve it? And so that actually builds up my courage. So when I see this person again, I can be vulnerable and tell this person, like, hey, when you see me, I notice that, maybe you put your head down or you're avoiding me, but I want you to know that that hurts me, because I really want to be, in right relationship with you. And I may have offended you, but I was never told the reason why. And, maybe just kind of open up that communication. And so that's something I'm a technique I wanted to implement.
I love that. And I love that you are doing some coaching, but then you also get to practice that, or even be more aware with a conflict resolution that you're doing with these young girls. So I love that God's having you in different ways, being able to focus on that. That's amazing. So let's look at 3 things that you have overcome. And you talked about some of the areas and you gave some techniques, but if there's 3 things that you really have overcome in this area for communication, vulnerability, maybe practical things, what would you share that you haven't shared already?
Wow, that I haven't shared already.
If anything, and it doesn't have to be 3, if there's anything else that comes to mind about perhaps how you have shifted or transformed in communication, vulnerability, or anything. It could be relationships, other relationships. You can share on that as well.
3 things I've learned to overcome in the areas that I'm working on is first, shame. That was something, I didn't know that I had. Like, I did not know at all until we had a session and you mentioned it. And I was like, whoa, And so learning, overcoming the shame of, how I want to be, I'm not operating that way. That's what shame is. It's an embarrassment. Like you believe you should be this way or something, more or excellent, but you're not upholding that standard. And so it brings about this feeling of shame and embarrassment. And so just by continuing working in sessions with you and working towards this lets me know that, okay, yes, I did not meet that standard or goal, but I'm overcoming it by getting the help I need. I am overcoming it by implementing techniques. I'm also overcoming, and I'm talking about just overall in general, overcoming just lies, the lies that I'm not improving, in my health walk, in my mental health walk. Some people would say, like, you're not changing, because change for most things don't happen overnight. We're talking about people here. I'm not like, what's something you can change and it just looks like you can change your living room overnight. We're talking about people that have had emotions, things that have, what you explained in the beginning, negative experiences over a lifetime that shape your mind and your view, and it has to be undone. And so some things is quick. He takes care of it quickly. And then sometimes he wants you to walk through a process, just like he did in the garden of, when he was creating the earth, he did it in a process. And so just overcoming the lies that I'm not changing. Some people have said that, and I've told you that, Dr. Amanda, it scarred me. But I said, no, that's not true, because I've invested my money. This is not the military paying for this, my money and mental health coaching. And not just one group of sessions, I've done 3, because I am committed to change. I'm committed to want to transform and look like Jesus. Like, I don't want to just be a good person. I want to be like Jesus, and I want to be healthy. And I want people around me to be healthy too. And I'm so committed to it, and I love it. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. And
And I
so,
love you. Look at you and you're just your heart. And what I want to say too, Amy, is that it's amazing hearing you, right? Because we had a session where you almost got challenged about your change. And it reminded me even with Jesus,
yes.
when Jesus was going through, like, weren't you just a carpenter? And a
Mhm.
lot of times, even in life, when we are changing and other people don't, they see us as we were, right? There might be other things they're going through. We're going
Yeah.
through things, and all of a sudden they still keep you in this old box. And I think they haven't, but they do, right? We're human beings. I mean, that happens a lot more than we think with friends, family, people just don't see it. And, or you say something like, oh, still the same, but it's not, right? Something's coming up and you have been very intentional, and we are. We're imperfect,
Right.
intentional beings, but you're very aware of where you're at and where you want to go. And I love that about you. And I love your heart with it, because not only, like you said, transformation was happening, but you almost got challenged to say, is it? And I'm like, well, but is it? And we had to work through that, and you were.
Yeah.
It was also that hearing you now, you're like, because at first, like, well, I don't know if I'm changing, but you're like, yeah, look at all these people are responding differently. So you're starting to
Yes.
fruit of it. You're starting to see the fruit, and it does. It's like little action steps, simple, like Traumaplicity, simplicity, because you've gone through so much, and we all have, right? As kids and our families have gone through things, and we're unlearning a lot
Yes.
about what we were taught or what we thought. And you do that so well. And so I'm so proud of you. And I love that, because your yes to yourself is taking you places. A lot of times we're nervous to do that, but your yeses to yourself are taking you new places. And I love seeing your journey. So I just want to honor you and your journey, and love your honesty. And even as people hear this, they may be going through the same thing, or they realize, oh, I can relate to you, so you're really
Yes.
making that impact. Now, I want to, near the end, we always do encouraging words, but before we do that, I want you to share with us about your book. Tell us about your book, because that's how I met you, through Scripture Publishing. We published your book, but I was doing the mindset, the author, Scripture Breakthrough Coaching. And I'd love for you to share about your book. You can show it, and then we'll make sure we have the links here for the audience to get it and or connect with you.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Amanda, for allowing me to share my book. So this is my first published book, and it's titled Wisdom and Triumph Over Temptation. It's for sure for anyone, or mostly single women, who are struggling to overcome temptation. And the reason I wrote this book is because, I've been single for about 12 years now. And like I've been single my whole life. I've never been married. But when I say 12 years single, I mean like actually committing myself to the Lord and living according to the way the Lord's way. And so um I realized that in the church, when you are committed, you're single, and people, they mean well, but the most advice that you're going to get is, when you're single, don't have sex, and Jesus is your husband. And that's it. They're going to send you on your way, and that will be the last you hear of them, right? um, but no one tells you, what to do, how to steward this gift that God gave you. Everything that God gives is a gift, and it requires stewarding. And and so this book is a highlight of some of the temptations that I've learned and that I faced in my singleness. Some things that I did not do well in. And some things that I've learned to overcome, and some things that I'm still struggling with, honestly. And I just want to help. I want to help. I want to help get the message out, so that, at least you have a tool in your back pocket. I'm not trying to tell you that you got to do this to be successful. I'm just giving you a little bit of help, in your single journey, so that it's more than just don't have sex. It's more than just like, Jesus is your husband. It's like me, I'm relating to you. You're single, I'm single. we're in this together, and
Mhm.
I want to help you. And that's what this book is about.
I love that. So it's Wisdom and Triumph, right? Can you share the
Wisdom,
title?
yes, Wisdom and Triumph Over Temptation. It's available on Amazon right now. You can get it right now. It's on a special deal, but it's still worth it. This book is so worth it. You learn how to understand the origins of temptation and why the tempter targets you, specifically single women. You can when you buy my book, you learn how to distinguish between God's testing and the tempter's temptation. And most people think that God is always tempting them, but that's not the truth. And we have to learn that. This book also teaches you how to pray more effectively to triumph over sinful strongholds. I have prayers that I've prayed in my time of temptation, well, before temptation, because prayer, when the temptation comes, you should already have been prayed up, right? So I teach you how to stand firmly against temptation, even if you failed before. No judgment here. If you failed before, hey, get back up. And I even put in here, there's some temptations that are very stubborn. And sometimes the root is a little bit more deeper than just praying. Sometimes you need to get mental health coaching. And I put that, I was finished with this book and I went back to the editor and I said, hey, I've been doing my counseling sessions with Dr. Amanda, and I realized that a lot of temptation that I face, it stems from the trauma that I've been through. So it's it's going to take more than just prayer and Jesus is your husband. Like some things, there are a deep root that goes beyond what we see in the natural eye.
That's right. And you do need that support to do that, that coaching, but the rooting it out and helping you move forward and see yourself in a new light, which I love. That's what happened with you. So thank you, Amy. And so if you're listening in, certainly we'll have those links. It's amazing. I'm excited for everything, and the people that are going to get that and they'll be blessed. So finally, as our last part, I want you to think of some words of encouragement. This could be for women that are starting, right? Maybe they're just starting their journey. God kind of pulled them out, right? We're kind of almost in the same area, of staying faithful, right?
Yes.
Like learning things before all marriage and stuff, right? So we're kind of in the same camp. And there's some people that are up there, right? They've been in it a decade or so, right? They're like, okay, but still going through it. And then there are women that are, maybe just starting, right? Like kind of like where I was, years ago, where God's like, gotta kind of pivot you, right? From where you were to here where you're going. And there was no judgment, right? But he was showing us, like you said. So any words of encouragement for women that are on this journey of learning what it means to really, pour into yourself, to, be on the road of what it means to follow the Lord, and not perfectly, right? Because that's one thing I want to share before you do, is in your book, you talk about how you overcame things and how you still are. Like, I love that because, we're never arriving, and yes, we're doing stuff, but you are still on a journey. And I love that because I share that with you all the time. We're on a journey. I'm not arrived here, and I'm not going to arrive. We're going to keep going. So I wanted to just honor that with you. So back to those words of encouragement. What would you share with women who are tuning in that you feel really led on your heart to encourage them with, or men who are also on this journey, but maybe tuning in?
Yes. Well, first I want to say thank you for tuning in to today's podcast. My words of encouragement for any young, any man or woman that's watching is to definitely invest in yourself. I am investing in yourself when it comes to mental health coaching. I would say, healthy relationships, healthy marriages, they all start with healthy singles, healthy individuals. Let's just say that healthy individuals, healthy families. If you want a family, if you're, you want healthy relationships, it starts with healthy individuals. And so I would say, do not be ashamed. Do not take the mindset that Jesus can just help me with everything. I don't need anyone else. That's not true. He allows people to go through things so that when they come out, they could be a faithful steward and get help. And so I encourage you, by all means necessary, invest in yourself, invest in healthy relationships, not with just God, but with other people as well.
I love that, Amy. Thank you. So it was so great to have you on, audience. Lots of wisdom nuggets, golden nuggets, some Amy's raw vulnerability and story. And certainly you can get her book. You can, check in with her if that's you, or you're like, I need some support with the deep roots. You know where to, you can check in with me. I do that. And if I'm not the fit, find somebody, whether it be counseling or coaching. I'm big on that. I want you to have a good fit. I'm not for every single person in the world. That's not possible. There's many amazing people out there, but get somebody who's going to help empower you. And remember, as we conclude the Traumaplicity podcast, that you are always loved, valued, and seen at all times, no matter what you're going through. And you're on a journey, so make sure you find people that you can journey together with. So again, Amy King, thanks for being on here. Take care, everybody, and catch you next week on Traumaplicity, either on the YouTube, on Facebook, or on audio podcast of Traumaplicity. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
The Traumaplicity podcast is sponsored by Cognitive Release Coaching TM by Dr. Amanda Helman, who empowers people to release the busy brain and gain back time, energy, and productivity that leads to well-being. Contact Dr. Amanda Helman by checking out one of the links to this show. Subscribe and share the Traumaplicity podcast with people that can benefit.